Welcome to Exchanging Secrets podcast. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. I'm your co-host, Mindy Silva, here with
Nadia Theng,
Flores-Macias,
Marie Pinedo.
And we have some wonderful sponsors for this podcast. New year, new you. And we'd like to thank Reyna. She provides home loans to those who are looking to invest in a property. You can reach her at the Reyna on Instagram. We also have Shannon Laird. Thank you so much, Shannon, for being a sponsor. You can reach her on Instagram at shlaird0515. We also want to thank Brandi Stevens, known as DJB Selecta. You can find her at that name on her Instagram as well. Thank you so much, and plays the best music if you're looking for someone to DJ your next event. Finally, we'd like to thank Luis Font and Alejandra Font from the Camp Transformation Center. They are the co-founders, and we're so blessed to have them sponsor this podcast. Well, ladies, you ready to dive in?
Yes,
let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So new year, new you. One of the things I told my husband was, one of the things they say is when you put your goals out in public, there is this accountability factor that begins to happen, right?
Yeah,
because you're like, wow, I just told X amount of people on social media. And one of the things I have absolutely been struggling with is my health, and particularly losing the weight. I had an accident 5 years ago that just totally, like, what it felt like decimated my health and my body. It's always in a lot of pain. But I know people work through those challenges, and I want to be one of those people who work through them. I used to work through little injuries, but these ones just like wreaked havoc across my body, and I have since yet to sort of fully recover in that area. And it's like the last area that I'm like really struggling with. So I thought, okay, this is a good way to put it out there, right? To say, new year, new me. One of the things I want to do over the course of the next year is to be able to drop those 35 pounds that I have been struggling to lose for the last 5 years. And some of that, I think, yes, you do feel beautiful when you are, within the right goal range, but some of that is just feeling comfortable, and that your bones feel great, and that you have energy again. And it sort of just like breathes life into you. And when you're working out and you're exercising and you're doing all those things, you do have the energy. And I'm starting to feel very tired, right, from some of those things. So that's one of my goals for this year. It used to be easy for me to achieve. Now I struggle with it. And I know a lot of women, we talk about it. It is one of their areas of struggle. So that is one of my goals. The other one is my husband and I want to invest in real estate. So that was one of our goals we set last year, was to invest in real estate property. I want to be able to say, okay, in 10 years, I own enough properties that if I want to fully retire at 50 years old, I can financially do that. That is actually one of my goals. And so we thought, well, you have to get started. And it's such a big risk, right? To buy homes, flip them, rent them, sell them. Yeah. But you have to take risks, and you have to invest in yourself, right? So that is another one of the goals that we've set for this year. And so hopefully that one goes well. It's in the middle of renovation right now, but we're hopeful that we'll get to start, you get into a rhythm, and then we'll start to do that. So those are my two goals for this 2025 year. Anybody else have you thought about like what your goals are, or did you set some last year and you're like, oh my gosh, I actually achieved that. Like, this is exciting.
What about you, Karen? Well, I'll go. Okay. So for 2024, I always I started saving my my stories onto highlights, so I can kind of reflect back and look at where I've been, where I want to go, the things like my highs and my lows, right? That's typically what I do. I usually end my days with my highs and my lows. What were my highs this day? What were my lows? What can I work on? And so forth. So one of the things that I learned through just going through several management programs at work was, and I don't know if you guys, but when we were younger, they'd always tell us to hone in on our weaknesses. Like you need to sharpen your weaknesses. If you have a weakness, you need to be better at that. As I went through my master's program and then through several management programs at my work, it's actually the opposite. Mm-hmm. They tell you to lean into your strengths.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we don't need to focus on the things that we're not good at. We need to focus on the things that we're great at. So one of the things that I did in 2024 was really focus on the things that I'm really good at, and it's motivating my staff. I didn't realize how impactful I was on some of their lives until they came and were like sharing stories with me. So that was something that I took as a personal goal for myself. So I wanted to read a few books just about like leadership and like leading and things like that. So for me, for 2024, some of my goals were reading books. So I did do that. I finished 2 books. That was it.
What were they? Do you remember?
One was like Help, I Work with People, I think it was. And I can't remember the other one, but it was like it was just really about like self-reflecting as a leader and just like, again, like you oftentimes give people grace, but you don't give yourself grace. So it was like also doing a lot of like internal reflection as well. So that was something that I had to work on for myself in order to be better for them. And then one of my other favorite books that I just love as in management was How Full Is Your Bucket? I love that one. And it basically talks about how you can't pour into others if your own bucket isn't full. So making sure you also prioritize yourself. So for 2024, that was a main driver for me. It was like helping prioritize myself, right? Can't take care of others if you don't take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
What are ways you did that? You know, how did you say, okay, this is what I enjoy. This is how I'm going to take care of myself to make sure that I have enough left to serve other people?
Yeah. So I think for me, it was like really honing into like what makes me happy. Cause I think for a big part of my life is I really did care about what others thought, right? People's opinions and stuff like that. And I feel like it did drive a big part of my life. So this year I was just kind of like YOLO. And I posted in, I think it was like December of last year. And I had said like in 6 months, it was like me just looking bumming. Like I was in sweats in a sweater. And I was working like crazy hours at work, but I was putting in the work because I was trying to achieve something. And I had posted something like, if you see me in 6 months driving my dream car, like just know that I put the hours in. And then 3 months later, I was able to purchase my car. So it was one of those things where it's like, to your point, I put it out into the universe.
You manifest it.
Yeah.
And I was able to attain it. And that was something really cool. And that was like a personal thing for me, as I had always wanted to do that. But then professionally, it was really about just like prioritizing myself so I could be a better leader for my staff. Cause I'm very vested in my success, but more importantly, I'm invested in their success. So it was making sure that I prioritize that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I like everything that you said because, for me, we're always setting goals. So I feel like I really like where I'm at. Mm-hmm. So I feel good. I've been working on myself for a while. I've been taking care of my health, all that stuff. So because I feel good, for me, I just want to continue that. So for the new, because I when I was driving out here, I was like, okay, well, what is it? What do I want to, do for next year? Well, really, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm already doing, which is just, not inspiring others, or yes, inspiring others, I guess, but making others feel good because I feel good. So I want to share that. I want to spread that. So I just want to continue that mainly. And if there's something I need to work on is definitely, I was just sharing with Mindy, slowing down a little bit. I don't know how that's possible because I take on a lot and I can't help it, right? Yeah. I want to do it all. I feel like I can do it all. And I keep signing up to things, but then it's like, okay, here I am doing it again. How am I going to slow down? How do you do? So I really have to figure that one out. That's my challenge. That's your challenge. Because it's contradictory because here we are. We just started this, we keep on trying to do more, but it's like, but I'm supposed to slow down.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
You know what? Someone told me, and it was really great advice. And it said, a lot of times we're thinking about achieving daily balance. And that is just a myth. Like that is not actually a thing. Balance sometimes happens in seasons. And I think that was much more settling for me because prior to me starting my new job 7 months ago, I actually had taken 6 weeks off of work, and it was sort of to rebalance, reset, and recharge. So I highly recommend anytime you can take consecutive time off. So if you're like, okay, I know I built in a really busy season this fall or this spring, can I actually build in a few weeks or to sort of reset and recharge? And maybe that's all you need. So maybe daily, right? You have 5 events today or something like that. And so, today is not balanced, but maybe Sunday is balanced, or maybe the summer is balanced because you're with your kids and you're with your family. And even though it feels busy, it's also like recharging your soul, so, that was the best advice, that sometimes it just happens in seasons and we have to be okay with that. And some weeks I feel like I'm a really great mom, and other weeks I'm a better, employee than I am a mom or a wife. And I think as long as I acknowledge that and say, okay, then I got to cycle back to that week, or I got to cycle back to that season, it sort of helps rebalance the full picture, because day to day, that's not a reality, at least not for us.
Yeah. I think, sorry.
No, I'm saying that makes sense.
Yeah. I think everything you all said is part of really my goals. One is actually, so years ago when I was working for Caltech, we would only be able to have like a family night on Friday nights, because it was the only night that I would get home and we could stay up later because I was commuting in traffic. So we would get pizza, we'd watch a movie, all 4 of us. It was like and the kids always talk about those nights. So this year, our goal is to have one night a week or one afternoon night a week where there's no plans. We can sit around, we can go outside in the pool, we could do whatever we want and just hang out, because right now the schedules are like, we have not had a chance to just sit and do nothing with each other. I've had the Christmas tree up since November. Sorry, we're in New Year's. You might have to edit.
That's okay. Keep going. This is real. Mine went up in November. Yep.
Mine went up in November, but there's no ornaments on the tree because we were like, okay, we want to make cookies, like have a whole night. We have not had a night since November to actually do that, right? So I just say that because I think one of the goals is to really have some time, especially because our kids are getting big, and my son's 17, my daughter's 13. He's getting ready to like start applying to colleges, and so there's the sentimental side of me. I think the other part of it is, one, getting healthy, and my husband and I really getting in that space where physically we're able to go for a run or go do whatever we want to do again, because we were doing that for a while and now we haven't been. But also just, I think, setting the priorities for us of like, how can we continue to uplift people, like encourage people, share God's word with people, and what does that look like in our daily life? We have a goal of starting a nonprofit, and over the last 6 months, it's really started to people have just been in our lives that have been like, here's how you do this, or here's how you write a grant for this, or here's veterans associations for this. And so I'm hopeful, and part of my goals is to really put some time and effort into that next year.
Oh, nice. I actually had a list. So they say the best way to achieve a goal is to write it down. So besides like sort of the public accountability side or the friendship accountability side, you have to write it down. And so it was amazing. I remember in college, a professor sort of walked me through that, and he was like, I want you to write them all down, put it in an envelope, and then in 10 years, I want you to open that, right? And see how much did you achieve against those goals that you set. And it was so amazing because I did. I opened it on my 31st birthday because our 30th, because I was 20 when I graduated. And it was very specific. He said to be like detailed and watch God do the work. And it was like the house I wanted, the city I wanted, the square footage. Ruben and I had gotten married. We'd had 2 kids. We even named them the names I put in those goals, which was so wild to me when I looked back at this. And I thought to myself, wow, how powerful. And I kept doing that over and over. So I would set big goals, right? Long-term goals. And then I would take those into chunks every year and to say, okay, how much can I achieve towards that? Well, once that happened, I was kind of like, yeah, okay, well, I guess I achieved everything. I don't need any more things to do. No, but really there's something inside you that knows that it needs a new purpose. And so I actually I have many mentors, and I think it's really important. I think that is definitely the secret to successes and new years, new yous, is to have mentors in your life when you have a goal in mind to say, like, who's doing that well? If you want to grow spiritually, you need a spiritual mentor. If you want to grow financially, you have a financial mentor. If you want to grow in business, you have a business mentor, and whatever that looks like. And so I knew that I was ready to take my career to new heights. I had sort of reached the peak of my career at the institution I was at. I had did consulting for 5 years and did some like chief of staff work. But I knew that like there was like a deeper purpose. I wanted to work in my community. I wanted to work with people, but I wanted to work somewhere that aligned with every value inside me, that allowed me to serve God and serve people in a way that let me feel free to do that. And so I remember I was kind of looking, and I was talking to one of my mentors, and I was like, I'm feeling not hopeful about, what is kind of what I'm coming across. And she said, you've put so much out there in life. Why don't you just sit back, take some time off, and see what comes to you? Sometimes the universe or God just has a way of bringing things into your life organically. And I said, okay. And that's kind of the time the podcast was birthed. And also I got a call from a new employer, and I knew immediately when I talked to the CEO, that was it. That was the thing that I had been like desiring. I literally like in tears, like after I hung up this call, knew that like God had called me to that place. But it was like a manifestation of setting those goals with intention, being prayerful about it. I think there is a lot to be said about praying towards your goals. And, this year, so much has happened. I've achieved so many goals in 1 year. So I looked back at my list. I actually had a list, and it was to find a career, again, that aligns with my passion and purpose that God has fulfilled in my heart. It was to buy certain types of vehicles, which we achieved both. It was to buy an investment property, which we did. And so I'm just like tackling those things one step at a time. We'll do a podcast on finance, which is a lot of my goals are also around those financial pieces. And so real excited to share those. But yeah, I think writing them down is a real secret to success. Yeah.
I do that too. So I have a list from like many, many years ago, and I'll like open it up occasionally, and I'll cross off and I'll write the dates that I achieved it. Right.
Nice. She did that.
And I love that. And for me, so I kind of talked about my 2024 goals, right? So 2025, to your point, Karen, like I'm in a really good place, right, in life. So, and my son is older. My son is 24. So my husband and I were talking about 2025 goals. So for us, one of our goals is we want to be able to help our son purchase his first property. So we started looking at like condos and things like that. So for me, even though it's a goal, it's not necessarily something for me, it's more for my son.
Now you're spreading.
Yeah. And that's like that was a huge goal of mine. It's funny because in one of my books, one of the items I wrote down, if anyone knows my dad, he's like a huge giver. He used to build homes for people in Mexico for free. We have always been really big about donating everything. We used to go to Mexico all the time, and it was just, we would drive around and we would just hand out clothes and shoes and food. And my dad would literally take people cars and build them homes. And that's just how I was raised. So in my book, one of the items I have, it says, help as many people that my dad has helped in his life. It was one of my aspirations, right? And it may not be in the same manner in which he did. I'm not going out building people's homes.
Why not? No.
But fun.
Yeah, right?
That's one thing for us to do.
You get cute outfits.
Photo op. But it was an aspiration of mine, but it's my opportunity, my power to be like, I do it in my own way, right? What does that mean, right? So whether it's like mentoring somebody, guiding someone through something, it's just still something that's at the forefront of my goals. And I think it's something that I'm never going to cross off because it's something that I want to maintain year after year. It is on the forefront of like wanting to still help people and whatever that looks like, right? Because for me, I've had so many experiences in my life. Unfortunately, death has been a really big part of our life. Well, my life, from losing my mom to my aunt, to my uncle, to my grandparents. And a big part of that has been me having to facilitate like the aftermath of someone passing, whether it's their estate, going through probate, things like that. So I've had a lot of experience in that area, and it's crazy to know that a lot of people don't know how to navigate that, right? Yeah. And you're like, what do I do? And it's a very overwhelming experience. So for me, when my godfather passed, I stepped in to help manage his estate and take it through probate. And that was something that I was like, man, I'm really thankful that I'm in a position. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of death, but I've had the experience to help people. So it's like, you don't ever know what your calling's going to be. Right. But it could be in those situations. It doesn't always have to be this glorious, glamorous experience. It could be through a hardship. Right.
I think that's what we've seen like this past year. So a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, we just had a rough year. We had a really rough year. And over the last 12 months, as much as I was so worried about that continuing, I've just watched God use it for so much good. I mean, people that he's brought into our life, people that have reached out to us about help, people that have, I think, watched us walk through those seasons and seen how different life is from a while ago. And it's just, I think that's the piece that I'm like, how can I make sure that we continue that? And that's like the little things that I don't want to miss is like the kid time, the movie time, the little like, whatever those things are, those are the things that I'm like, I don't really need much more now. And now I think to your point, it's also, how do I continue to do the things that I feel like God's putting in front of us? And that for us is this, hopefully, a version of this nonprofit. I'm not really sure exactly what avenue or like full shape it will take, but the people that have been brought into our lives around watching my husband go through a lot of things and now where he's at right now. And I mean, just how different life has been with what he's done to change it, how we've surrounded ourselves with support or all of those things in prayer. I'm hopeful that next year will be how we continue to do that.
Yeah. What I find most interesting about when I think about the success that you and Anthony have achieved over the last year, most of that was actually pouring into other people. Right. And some of that when you do, right, when you pour into other people in their greatest need and you pour into other people when they're most vulnerable, that in itself is a sense of fulfillment. Sure. It brings life. It brings purpose.
It could be the littlest things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like they say, hugs are free, right?
A
smile.
A smile.
As a smile, a compliment. Like I think every day that just natural to me, right? So every day, like as I see people, I just see something, I like it. But again, because I feel good, so I just want to spread that, right? Yes. I just spread it, the positivity, right?
And your energy is all about that. Like you are. You're
that's
just
the thing.
Such a vibrant person.
Yeah.
And I think that's, probably one of my, one of my biggest assets. Like I just, so if that's a strength, I just want to spread it. So, you could put me anywhere and I want to make people feel good and happy and make them smile, make them laugh. That's just me.
I'm going to take you shopping with me. So you can make me feel good and make me happy. Same. Take you shopping. Go get lipstick.
It's the littlest things. Yes, it's the littlest things.
It really is though. And I do think that is like your brand. Like when I think of you, I do think of that. Like you are a light. Yeah. You are a light in the room. Like you're the biggest hype person. Like,
we're all in black.
I'm actually wearing black, but it's color.
But it's on brand for you. It totally is.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't talk about it, but maybe if you want to elaborate. So one of the things Karen and I collaborate a lot about the aesthetic of the podcast and the goals we have for 2025. And we keep saying we're going to get better at it. We're going to get better. And I think we are. We're learning to work together.
We wish there was more time.
We need more time.
Time in a day.
No, but I mean, it's true. So I've been talking to people about doing what we think we're still learning. There's still people who are sort of one step, behind where they're thinking about, I want to do a podcast. Well, they did it. Maybe I can do it too. And I've started to have conversations about doing that early consulting work. And so while you don't have to have sort of mastered every point, like we will at year 3 or 4, there are things that you begin to master pretty early on. And so one of the things someone pointed out in that conversation was like, who does all the aesthetic? Like your outfits are like on point, and the, all the sort of like
Karen and Jen.
Yes.
Sponsored by Karen and Jen.
I was like, that is not me. I'm happy to do the legal and the consulting and the paperwork and, the business aspects
and your way.
You want to know how many reels you get for that sponsorship? Come talk to me. Yes. And remember to subscribe.
But if you want to have fun.
Yeah, exactly. You want to look good? Contact Karen.
Yeah, I mean, that is truly a gift. And so, at the new year, one of the things we talked about in January, our meeting, we'll have a business meeting to sit down and talk about what are our goals for 2025? How can we improve the business aspects, the aesthetics aspects, the creativity, whatever it is, right? Like, so that we keep also elevating to the next level. One of the things I thought about, you see these memes all the time. I was telling Karen, and they're always like, oh, I'm elevating and I got to leave that friend group behind type of.
I outgrew them.
I outgrew them. And I thought about these relationships. And we keep growing together. And, I was like, I don't want to leave these people, my friends behind. I love all these women, right? And so the idea is that, well, whatever I'm going to do, I want them to elevate with me because I want us to grow together. I want us to achieve and succeed together. And Karen and I talked about it, like, just like marriage or any relationship, it's not always equal. Sometimes a partner has to carry a little more in different seasons. But that's a true partnership. That's a true relationship. And that is true in life and in business, because what I want to make sure is that people are growing and stepping and cultivating their gifts at a time and space that's comfortable for them, or at a pace that's comfortable for them. And so I knew that early on, my learning curve on the business side, I had already gone through that with my own business, so I could bring us there much faster. But all this side is all new to us, and we're all learning. So I learn, and then I teach Karen, and then I teach a little bit here, right? And so that we're all kind of growing at the same. And I don't desire to be like, I elevated above this group. Like, no, I want us to be in it for life. It's together.
So that ties so much with what I saw. I think it was like a meme also on Instagram, and I shared it with one of my staff members. It says, the lower levels compete, but the higher levels collaborate. And
there's no competition.
There's no competition.
We're all going to elevate together.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that, because I think small-minded people compete with others. I only compete with myself. And that's something that I think has differentiated me from many people, is although I was at a point in my life, like, I was concerned about what others thought, I was never competing with anyone else. Like, I never had a thought of like, this person has something, I want it to be better. That never was a thought. It was, I always wanted to be a better version of myself. I always did everything for myself. It wasn't I had someone one time tell me, you do the things you do because you're trying to prove others. And I was like, that's so, if you really knew my heart, you would know that I don't, because there's a lot of things that I don't share. Like, Mindy knows a lot of like the things I have to do for my family behind the scenes, but it's not like I go and post it on Instagram. Like, that's the difference where I think like people who are doing things truly from their heart versus people who are doing it for like the whatever it is, right? The
validation.
The validation. And when I post things, it's not because I'm trying to boast or brag. It's because I'm really fucking proud of where I've come from. Like, I've put in the work. I didn't get handouts. There's no inheritance. There's no nothing. It's pure hard work. And I'm thankful and I'm grateful and I'm blessed to be where I'm at, but it goes back to that comment of like, I'm not competing with anybody. I'm collaborating. Like, Mindy, Ruben, and my husband, we had lunch, and it was so like inspiring, because Mindy's like, cousin, you really need to like start your company. Like, you need to do these things. Like, and I'm like, you know what? That's going to be a 2025 goal of mine. Like, I want to start.
You heard it here first. Well, ladies, this has been such an incredible conversation. I'm so excited to see what 2025 brings for all of us. Yes. And for all of you listening. I hope that you've learned something today, some golden nuggets of wisdom that you can apply for 2025. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at @exchanging-secrets. Thank you, friends.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers and happy
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy New Year.
Cheers. Thank you for
friends for joining us. Tune in each week as we give you an intimate window into our decades of friendship and exchange secrets on how we are striving to successfully navigate life's challenges. Remember to like and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and other podcast platforms. The content in our podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical, legal, financial, or other professional advice. Please consult with a professional for specific advice tailored to your situation. The views and opinions expressed by our guests and sponsors are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Tell Me Your Secrets, LLC.